In this tutorial, I'll be showing you what makes a successful photography critical link. So before we begin, let's have a look at the reasons why we ask you to do critical links in the A-level. So when we look at the assessment objectives, you can see here the assessment objective 1, so develop ideas through sustained and focused investigations informed by contextual and other sources, demonstrating analytical and critical understanding. So that's what we need to focus on, your ability to analyse the work of artists and designers. So I'm going to show you how you do that in your critical links. So always thinking about these questions, who, why, what, how, when. These are all really important things that you should be asking yourself when you're putting together a critical link. So hopefully you've already watched the introduction to layout. If you haven't, please make sure that you look at this. It explains the grid system and how that can be applied to your critical design pages. So again, let's focus on who, what, when, how and why. So the way that we do this in photography is through the use of diagrams, keywords, quotes. So let's have a look at some examples of a range of critical links. Some you'll see are very similar, whereas some students have really opted to go sort of a different avenue when it comes to analysing the work of artists and designers. So when we look at this particular critical link, as you can see, the student has many examples of the artist's work. She does use diagrams, there is evidence of analysis. However, when you actually read the written content on here, there's a lot of information that doesn't really add to the piece. We're not very interested in how old the artist is or where they studied, only if that is influential to the actual work. Other than that, this particular critical link is a bit overbearing. There's a lot of information going on. In terms of analysis, it's good, but in terms of layout, it's a little bit disorganised. Often less is more. Looking at this, the viewer could be disorientated a little bit. So really focus on the key things. What is this artist trying to say within the work? The next one is an example of a Brassai link. So those of you that don't know Brassai, he's very famous for a book that was entitled Paris by Night. So interestingly, this student has opted for a white background, so I don't quite understand why they've done this. But the layout in this is slightly better. The actual images do have room to breathe. What I kind of like as well is that the student is that idea of the streets of Paris, the examples that she uses, there's not many people in them. Sometimes there is no people, it's just the city itself. And she's tried to apply that idea within the layout. However, this particular link doesn't have any diagrams at all. There are no keywords to do with composition. We do have a quote and we do have some interesting research, but in terms of analysis, there's not a lot going on here. So yes, the layout is slightly better, however, the analysis isn't. Here is another one about the work of Helena Bine. So here again, the layout is very structured. You can see that the student has added some keywords. There is relevant information as well. One issue with this again is the lack of diagrams. As you can see on one side, the student has added some diagrams, but Helena Bine, when you look at the work, it's got all these beautiful leading lines and, this high contrast within the image where, you have a really deep black next to a bright white light. So all in all, again, the layout is good, it's very organised, but more analysis, more diagrams, this would have really benefited from that. So this is the work of Ansel Adams, so the landscape photographer. Here you can see there's relevant information, we've got the diagrams, they are hand-drawn, you can do that if you wish with a white pen. Here it refers to the F64 group, which is really interesting in terms of the process of that Ansel Adams used to take his photographs. It highlights the fact that he was an environmental photographer. And, you know, there's some relevant quotes there. And what I love about this layout is it plays with that idea of an horizon line. So when you look at Ansel Adams' work, often on a landscape, the horizon line tends to be halfway or 2/3 up the bottom from the bottom of the frame, and that's what this student has done, mimicked that idea of a landscape and that horizon line, leaving sort of that top third of the image, sort of leaving that space there. Very, very clever. So in terms of analysis, great, research, great, and also the way that the work has been displayed, again, is great. Again, looking at this one, there is a lack of diagrams here, a lot of text. Again, it is very, very overbearing. You know, you don't even know where to begin with this layout, but the research is actually quite good. But again, please remember to put those diagrams in and think very carefully about the layout. Sometimes less is more. This particular critical link is about the documentary Everybody's Street. So here it's actually analysing the work of several artists from that documentary, but look at the use of typography. You know, we have key words on there, we have diagrams, you know, all the information is relevant. The only thing that gets me on this is the way that she puts Everybody's Street, those sort of diagonals, you know, in the top left and top right hand corner. There's no need for them. It detracts from the information. Just so don't feel that you have to fill the space. But all in all, this is a great link. This is the work of Robert Frank, the Come Again. So this is a handmade link that does sort of really reflect the artist's work. More information probably would have been beneficial here. You know, understanding the actual project, the book itself. Here is a collage link. So this is the work of Molekid. Anyone that knows Molekid knows that it's very much his approach to collage is very much mixed media. So he does some handmade collage and then scans that in and does some digital collage on top. And what Molekid does really well is he applies vectors to his work. So you can see here that the student has highlighted his use of vectors. The way as well that the student has cut into the typefaces I really like as well. That cutting in the letters is lovely. The way they type on a path as well, that's something that Molekid does as well. And the student also has a bit of a nod to the idea of a mixed media approach with, you know, putting that sort of paper texture in the background. So as much as, you know, like you're looking at this and you're probably saying there's no diagrams on it, but you can see that the student has really implemented the ideas of Molekid's work into the layout. So looking at it, you can understand that this student really gets the work of Molekid, and you know that the development for the project is going to be equally as good as this critical link. The next link I want to show you is actually a video link. So any students that wanted to do film within their projects, videos, documentaries, anything like this, you may wish to do a critical link, like a video one. Obviously this year we are moving more towards digital applications, you know, in terms of sketchbooks, using websites, etc. So watch this, is about the work of Banksy. See what you think.
A previously unseen collection of satirical art and sculpture by the graffiti artist Banksy has been installed in a seaside town. The show is called Dismaland. It's taking place at a former Lido in Weston-super-Mare in Somerset. It opens to the public.
He's known as Banksy.
Maybe it means it's a bit of a joke.
Drawings of a graffiti master.
By midnight, it was clear that the shop would lease me.
So hopefully that has been helpful. So please just keep in mind when you're putting your critical links together, you know, who the artist is, what is it they're trying to say, when was the work produced, because again, that might be incredibly relevant. You know, was it produced during the Surrealist movement, Dada, modernism, etc.? How was it produced, again, is something quite important to photographers. You know, is it digital? Is it darkroom? Sometimes we deal with cameraless photography. And then, you know, why is this artist done this work? That's the biggest question, why? So use diagrams, use quotes, and if possible, try and reflect their ideas within the layout if that's possible.